autism? What drew you to that? That seems like such a complicated. I'll be honest. I'm not wired. I don't have the patience. I could maybe do it for a week or two, and I would get upset at humanity and the world and God, and I would just feel like, why are you doing this to these people? But that's the way I'm wired. I find it beautiful and remarkable that somebody could do what you do. So what drew you to it? That's where I'm going with all that.
Well, I started working with children with autism because I was moving to New Jersey after getting married.
Okay.
I got married in October. I did not have a job in Georgia yet. I was moving to Georgia, not New Jersey, from New Jersey. And so right the night of my rehearsal dinner, I got a call, and they were starting the 3rd autism preschool classroom in Gwinnett County Public Schools.
Wow.
And so they had seen on my resume that I worked with students with behaviors, and they paired me for that. And so they offered me the job as I'm getting ready to go to my rehearsal dinner, and said, on Monday morning, you have a meeting. And so I took it, and I think God put it in front of me that I was in the right place at the right time. And I fell in love. It was preschool autism.
Oh, wow.
And you can see so much growth at that age. So you have babies that come to you and they can't speak, they can't communicate, and you can have them communicating with pictures. I learned so much. And to be able to teach different ways to communicate, that is heavenly. Like at one point, my husband at the time, he said, I think if one of those kids cussed, you would like be excited about it. I'm like, you're right, I would, because they said something. So I loved it, and I was blessed to be able to, after having my children there, I had to quit when I had Cole, because Cole was a preemie and was in NICU. And so my supervisor at the time, who was one of the influencers of me, she called me and she said, you have to decide right now, because we've got to give numbers, to central office. Right. And I'm like, I'm in the hospital. My son's in NICU. I have to resign. So fortunately, my lead teacher at that time, she was having children too. And so a year and a half later, when I was ready to go back, she was getting ready to have a child, and she said, why don't we job share?
Oh, wow.
And so we
God
supervised.
wink again.
Right, exactly. We supervised that program that I was the 3rd classroom. And by the time 5 years later that I came here to Kentucky, I was overseeing 11 autism-specific classrooms.
Wow, and roughly how many per classroom?
There were 8 per classroom.
So
and then we
100,
had 45
88.
students that were in community programs that we supported. Right. So, and then I came here and was able to get a job at the university where I began understanding it more. And I couldn't imagine at that point working with another population.
Now, not to get political, but I would assume that these programs are never funded well enough, and they're always that challenge, and you're fighting the good fight on top of all the other pressures that you have as an administrator with it. So I find that remarkable too. I want to add that. So to be clear, there's no cure for autism. I mean, is it even treatable?
It
or
is
it more of the learned behavior that makes them better, I guess you'd say?
I think it's both. I think that there are treatable symptoms, or characteristics. I know that many children with autism have leaky gut, and so we can treat leaky gut through diet.
Now, what is that, just in broad strokes?
Their stomachs don't, they leak the fluids, and they don't digest food. And there is some research relating that maybe to pesticides.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what it does to pests, is it puts holes in their stomachs so they don't live. But through diet, that is treatable. And other symptoms of autism are treatable medically. So I always say there's a behavioral and a medical component, and we have to work together. And that, I think, is what builds those teams around kids with autism, is that you need both aspects, the medical and the behavioral aspect. And we can do the behavioral part in school, and and do the educational part, but we have to work with doctors because our students don't even respond to medicine the way that other people do. So they may be on a medicine that really works well for them. And as they get older and grow, it stops working. Most kids, you can give them more of that medicine. With our students with autism, often they start back at the beginning again, trying other things because it just doesn't work to just give them a little bit more.